Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS, and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Welcome to episode number 103 of the Focus and Chill podcast. I'm thrilled to be joined by Yenn Purkis today, as well as a special guest who's on a companion animal. What was the cat's name again?
Sunflower.
Sunflower. So we've got Yenn and Sunflower today. I've got a bio for Yenn. I don't have one for Sunflower, but maybe you could mention anything about Sunflower later. Yenn is an autistic, asexual, and non-binary advocate and author. They also have a diagnosis of schizophrenia. Yenn is the author of 18 published books and contributor to many more. Yenn is an accomplished presenter and has given 2 TEDx talks, one on resilience and disability and the other on autism and gender diversity. Yenn has given presentations all over the world and is the Deputy CEO of the Disability Leadership Institute. They live in Canberra, Australia, with their little tortoiseshell kitty, Sunflower. There we go. Sunflower was mentioned in the bio. It's a great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
To start off with, keen to hear about when you found out that you were autistic. Can you tell us about that journey with neurodiversity?
Oh, absolutely. So I meet a lot of people diagnosed as adults now, and they're like, oh, it's the best thing. It's liberating. I know who I am. I understand why I had issues at school and work. You know, it wasn't my fault. It was a world that's not neuroaffirming and all of those lovely things. And a sense of pride in who they are and finding their family, their autistic family. And it's a lovely thing and it's a liberation. That was not my experience. So I was diagnosed in 1994 at the age of 20 when I was a prisoner. Now we can talk about that some more. People are always interested by the prison stuff. People love talking about prison. Anyway, so I was diagnosed at the age of 20 as a prisoner. And at the time, I was very good at masking in order to survive. So I figured out that when I went to prison, that if I didn't fit in, then my life would be pretty hellish. And prison was like high school, but the bullies would kill you. So I had to sort of very quickly adapt to a new lifestyle. And so when I was diagnosed, I didn't like myself. I really didn't. And I rejected the diagnosis. I said, no, that's not me. I'm a big scary criminal. I'm not a nerd. My understanding of autism was it was a diagnosis of nerd. And it took me 7 years to get to a place where I didn't embrace it. After 7 years, I accepted it. That was in 2001. And the reason I finally accepted it was because I liked myself, or I'd started to like myself and have good self-esteem. Because the problem for me with the diagnosis, and this was subconscious, I didn't articulate this myself, but looking back, the issue was, it was very raw. It was very personal. I knew it was true. I didn't want it to be true. When I met other autistic people, I was very intimidated and afraid of them, and I didn't want to hang around in case it sparked off my autistic side. But it really took me a long time, even after I accepted it. So when I accepted it, I thought I was happier telling people I'd been in prison than I was telling them I was autistic. And then only really there were two things that changed that. One of them was my amazing mentor, Polly Samuel, who's sadly no longer with us, but Polly was a very similar to me now, actually, a very accomplished, high-profile autistic person. She'd written 2 books that were international bestsellers and catapulted her from abject poverty to wealth and influence and things like that. And she was amazing. And I met her in 2004, and I learnt my autistic pride in Polly's house with all her stimmy, shiny things and her books and everything. She had one of those singing fish that you put on the wall. She had one of those and she just absolutely loved it. She was such a fan of the stim. She was a fan of sparkly stuff, and her advocacy style, I'm proud to say, is very close to my advocacy style now. The kinds of books she wrote are similar to the kind of books I write. And so when I met Polly, I finally thought, I'm autistic, and that's not a bad thing at all. That's a good thing. So that was my journey. It took 10 years to actually come to a place where I was happy and proud to be autistic. And now, of course, I'm known as a neurodiversity advocate. So that's a good thing. But yeah, it did take a while. And I didn't become passionate about advocacy. So I was sort of thrust into the world of advocacy when my first book came out. And Polly was instrumental in me writing that book. She drove the whole process. And when I'd finished it, she wrote a foreword and sent it off to her publisher and said, this is awesome. And yeah, so it got published, and the book gave me a lot of confidence. And it was through the book that I actually joined the public service. Yeah, no, it's really interesting how much a mentor can make a big difference. And I'm now, I perform that mentorship role to other people, which is amazing.
Yeah, I came across you recently via a session you ran with the Caboose group.
Oh, lovely. They're fantastic.
It's really great that you're doing all of that advocacy work. And I imagine part of, in terms of the time it took to get to acceptance, do you think it was related also to just the challenges overall in terms of stigma with autism at that time?
Absolutely. And no one understood what it was. Like, obviously, when I was diagnosed, if I said, I'm autistic, people would go, what's that? And then as time went on, they'd say, oh, I have an insert relative here who's autistic too. And now everyone knows about autism and neurodiversity, and doesn't mean they have very good autism or politics, but, there's a lot more knowledge out there. Whether or not there's a lot more understanding is another topic for conversation, but there's a lot more understanding, which is good. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of assumptions, which is not good. Talking of assumptions, I really pulled myself up yesterday. It was really funny. So I was walking up to catch the light rail, and there was this lady there, and she had a walker, and she had all this stuff in a walker, and she had a mangy-looking dog. And I thought, oh, dear, that's a poor, sad, homeless person. Oh, what if a dog's vicious? Blah, blah, blah. And she yelled out to me, I've got tattoos on both my hands, my wrists and forearms. And this lady said, oh, I love your tattoos. And so I went over and talked to her. She was absolutely lovely. The dog was not vicious at all. The dog was very smoochy. Apparently the dog's name was Honey. And the lady said, honey by name, honey by nature. And she was a beautiful dog. And I thought, Yenny, you just did what you tell people not to do, and that's make assumptions and judge. You made assumptions and judged, and it was completely wrong. And you did that poor woman and her dog a disservice by assuming. And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, the assumptions we make, I guess.
Yeah, very hard to break out of that because there's probably some evolutionary aspect to making assumptions and judging. But great, it's excellent when we're able to detach from that. And sounds like a really special conversation.
That's lovely. I was glad to meet her and her dog.
So in terms of the type of changes that came after getting the diagnosis, some of it was self-acceptance. Were there any other changes that happened in terms of how you approached the world?
I think so. I think I spent a lot of my time when I was younger trying to be socially included and accepted. And the only way I could do that was belonging to a group. So I belonged to the group of socialists and criminals and drug addicts and all of that. And then I got to a point in about 2001 where I realized people liked me for who I was, not for what group I belonged to. It's very easy to be accepted by socialists. All you have to do is agree with them. Whereas when I was, 26, 27, I realized that people liked me because of who I actually was, not because I was a socialist or a criminal or whatever else. And that was a real eye-opener, and it really helped with my self-esteem. I'm still not there with self-esteem. I've got shocking imposter syndrome. I work 9 jobs at the moment. I see them around a couple of hours a month, but I have 4 main employers at the moment. And I spend the whole time thinking, oh my God, have I stuffed up? Which is interesting, really. Oh, and the cat. Oh, you're so beautiful. Sitting on my foot.
I love that, actually. 9 jobs. I've got 4 at the moment, and I was thinking that's a lot. But 9 jobs would mean that you're never bored and there's a lot of novelty.
Yeah. And I love all of them. The other day I was getting a bit frazzled because I've taken on a big job recently, which is the deputy CEO role, and it's 15 hours a week. That's a significant amount of time. And so I had to do a spreadsheet mapping all my hours, and it was fine. It was not onerous, probably more than I should be doing, but it was enough. And that was quite funny because I had to sort of work out what I was doing. And then I realized when I started doing some of the work, I love all of this. This isn't work. This is just interesting activities that people want to pay me money for.
That's a great way to approach it. So do you find that there isn't any drudgery in that? There's no admin and...
Everything I do, I love. I did have an interpersonal issue with a colleague, which I didn't love, but we figured that out. But yeah, apart from that, I love it all. It's great. I get to do advocacy. I get to write presentations. I get to do leadership stuff, and yeah, it's great.
It sounds like you're really able to lean into your strengths now, whereas maybe in the past it was you're having to work against your brain.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about the 9 jobs, or maybe the top 5 of those?
I've got the Disability Leaders Institute is my main job. And then I work for Rebus Theatre, which is my second main job. And then I work for the La Trobe University as a co-director of a research project, so go me. And then I also work for the University of Wollongong. Oh, and I'll give my course a plug. I'm running a course through My Life, My Decisions, which is part of University of Wollongong. And it's called Autism in Adulthood. And it has 10 modules on different elements of autism for adults. It's absolutely awesome. It costs $700 to do the assessed version, which is mostly for students to get a course credit, and $600 to do the non-assessed version, entirely self-paced, really lovely things. So if people are interested to do that, look on the My Life, My Decisions website. There's some other courses there as well by other people. Of course, nowhere near as good as mine. No, they're good too. It's all good. So yes, I do that with them. I also do some casual marking with them. I've got an NDIS client who I've been working for the last sort of 6 to 8 months, which is going really nicely. I do some talks with the both, some coaching for NeuroEmploy. I do some work on the project advisory group for Say For Me, Say For You. And I think that's all of them. I may have missed one. It's a lot of jobs, though. Most of them are only, or half of them are only a couple of hours a month. So it's not like I'm constantly on the computer. And I work a 6-day week as well. So Sunday is my day off, although this Sunday I have to do a theatre performance for Rebus for one of their projects. So I'll be working on Sunday, but I will be getting paid penalty rates. So I'm not complaining about that.
Very good. And speaking of other plugs, the other thing I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about is the study that you're doing with the La Trobe.
Absolutely. So we're talking to autistic entrepreneurs and small business owners about their experiences in the self-employment business space as relates to well-being. So if you are an autistic entrepreneur and you would like to be involved, please get in touch with me. I'm on social media and things like that. So have a look at that. And I'd be really happy to have you as part of that research. Would be fantastic. We're interviewing this month and next month, I think, and it'll be great. There's very little research existing in this space. So it'll be one of the first studies looking at particularly wellbeing and entrepreneurship for autistic people. And you don't need to be a successful business. If you have a failed business or a business that isn't doing so well, we'd also love to hear from you. So my email is funnyauthorperson@gmail.com. If you are interested to participate in this study, then please get in touch.
I'll definitely be trying to participate myself, and I'd recommend other people as well. It sounds like a really important topic. And I love the email address. We'll include the details in the show notes too.
I have funny names for everything. So I used to live in a house called Whimsy Manor. My cane, so I use a cane to get around a lot of the time, is called Jermaine the Cane. Oh dear, can't help myself.
Nice. Right. And when you're not working, what do you enjoy doing in your Sundays normally when you're not performing in the theatre?
Love watching television. I could watch television all day, every day. I also like catching up with friends. So I've got some really lovely friends that I see regularly. I like to talk to the cat, of course, because she's beautiful. It's very nice having a cat. You can't really go past them. They're the best thing. And I like to read as well. And I like to write blogs. So I don't see blogs and memes as being work because they're for me. They're not for anybody else. Like no one's paying me to do them generally. So I like to do those on my Sunday as well. So my next blog post is going to be all around 25 years of not being a criminal. So I thought that would be, the thing is, though, I always have to get those clearances for stuff like working with children check, working with vulnerable people, police check. And they always come back, they just take ages to process because the organisation has to go through a whole risk assessment. So I've just got my Victorian working with children card so that I can do one of my jobs. And it took them 6 months to get back to this. Every day I'm checking the email thinking, really? You haven't sent it yet? And then I sent them an email last Monday to say, this is silly. You've had it for 6 months. I said, I know I've got spent convictions from ages ago. I know I've changed my name, but even so. And then they got back to me on Friday of last week. And I thought it was just them responding to my message, but no, they'd approved the thing. So I thought that was worthy of blog post is again, having to prove that they're not a criminal.
I'm glad it came around in the end, but that does sound like it took too long.
Yes.
Right. Now, I'm keen to ask you about writing books and productivity tips for how you are able to write 18 books.
Well, 6 of them are kids' books, so they're quite short.
Okay.
The other 12, well, there's one that's a book of poetry, so that was just a matter of collating it and publishing it on Amazon. The rest of them, I call them instructional books on autism. That's how I term them. Most of them are between 200 and 300 pages. What I tend to do is get a publisher first and I write a whole book and then no one wants to publish it because it's a waste of time. 2 main publishers that I use. And if one of them doesn't want to publish it, I share it with the other one and they go, oh, yes, please. As a writer, that's quite a privilege. I recognise that. Yes, I have 2 publishers, both of whom love what I do. It's fantastic. So I'll put in the proposal form, and you always have to do that with a book. Even if the publisher contacts you and says, could you write this for us? You still have to do the proposal form for their marketing purposes and stuff like that. So do the form, wait for them to come back and say, oh, yes, please, or, no, thanks. And then you just get a bit depressed for like 20 minutes and then move on, in my experience. But yeah, no, when they say yes, you just write the thing. I tend to write to headings. So I'll do each chapter and then I'll do like 10 or 12 subheadings for the chapter and then write to those because that's a lot easier. You have to be disciplined with writing and art and things like that. I've got a master's in fine art. And one thing I learnt very early on is that creative practice is not about waiting for the muse to take you. It's about doing the work. It really, it's very sad. It'd be nice if you sit there and inspiration particles go into your brain and you go, oh, I'm inspired. It doesn't generally work that way. Poetry, I find it does. So I struggle to write poetry if I'm not in the mood for writing poetry. But nonfiction really is a discipline, and you sit down and you write it. It's like a job. My first book, which is an autobiography, took me 4 weeks to write from start to finish. That's not something I will ever reproduce. It was pretty cool. I was supposed to be doing my master's. It was at the start of 2005 when I just started doing my master's, and I started writing it, and it was so cathartic I couldn't stop. So I don't think I went to any tutorials for that 4 weeks. But
Were
I
you
used
able to use
it.
it as an assessment?
Yeah, I referenced it in my master's thesis. Absolutely.
Nice. Okay, so that was just hyper-focused for 4 weeks. How about the other books? How did you approach them?
Mostly as when I get time to do them, I do them.
Mm.
Like, it's most of my way that I approach it. I have, limited hours, and so I have to prioritize what I'm doing. But with books are good because you can just do a little bit. The thing I find when I'm writing is I intend to just do a little bit, and then I get right into it and I can't stop. So, yeah. With the autobiography, I was in the darkest chapter, the one where I was in the private prison and life was very unpleasant. And I rang Polly and I said, I don't know what to do with this chapter. I said, it's awful. And she said, write it. She said, even if it's 4 a.m. when you finish it, write it. Because if you don't, you'll go to bed and you'll wake up and you'll be in prison. And I thought, that's really good advice. And so if it is challenging, for whatever reason, then the just do it philosophy works very nicely. I don't procrastinate. It's not something I do. I've taught myself not to. And I do just do that. I'm like, right, if I don't want to do something, I should do that now.
It's really interesting hearing you explain it that way, because we've had a few other authors who are, I guess, identify very strongly with ADHD and talk a lot about that they'll work in phases where they wait for the inspiration to strike, and then they'll write for a day, and then they'll be bored of it and they won't write for 3 weeks.
Right.
I've been trying to do a little bit each day. I'm writing an autobiography as well.
Oh,
I've been
cool.
doing 10 minutes every morning, and I
Nice.
find that seems to work relatively well.
Yeah.
But I guess you've experimented with both approaches, where you did the all at once approach,
Yeah.
and then the other approaches.
Absolutely.
I love how you said that you've taught yourself not to procrastinate. That's very cool. Do you have any tips on how to teach other people to do the same?
If you have something you're worried about doing and you don't want to do and you want to put it off, prioritize doing that thing. Easy as that. Just really don't want to do this. I hate checking my phone when I'm waiting for a specific email to come in. I tell myself, you're going to have to check your phone fairly frequently. It's a phone. And so I do. And I used to worry about having a shower because when I lived in Mawson, my apartment was very old and crappy and I had to replace the shower. So even then I get really anxious sometimes about having a shower. They're like, yeah, and you don't even live in that house anymore. Your house now is considerably nicer. I never had an issue with your shower. And if you did, there's these amazing people called plumbers. And you can call them and they can come and fix whatever issue you have. But this kind of thinking, can be quite challenging.
Yeah, I can identify with that. Memories from the past come up in color today.
Yeah.
Going back to productivity, is there anything that doesn't work for you that other people say works typically for them that you've tried out and hasn't worked?
I don't think so. I haven't really had a conversation with people much about this and what approaches they take. That's quite an interesting thing to think about.
Have you read anything from Julia Cameron or Stephen Pressfield, who I guess they write about the process of writing and how they approach it?
No, I'm entirely self-taught. The only training or research I've done around how to write was high school English. I'm just very lucky to have what you might call a gift.
It sounds like you've definitely found a strategy that works amazingly well. 18 books is a huge achievement.
When I was in the public service, I had these interesting managers and they seemed to want to just undermine me all the time. And they sent me on a writing course and I was so professional, I didn't complain. I know they're doing that to undermine me. I know they are. I'm not going to fall for it. So I went to this writing course. learned absolutely nothing, complete waste of money for the department. And I came back and they said, oh, we noticed the difference in your writing. And I'm thinking, no, you didn't, because I have not changed anything. Yeah.
It probably would have made it worse if there was things that interrupted your own style.
Well, I had managers, nice managers, tell me over the years that I could write anything, and they were right, I can. It's a nice skill to have if you're looking for jobs. Not that I'm looking for jobs, I have enough, but let someone else have one. But yeah, if you're looking for jobs, the criteria often involves written communication. Being able to write well is a very useful skill in many areas, including in employment.
Definitely. And you've done many different styles as well. Children's, the non-fiction books, and I imagine a lot of academic writing as well.
I do a bit of academic writing. I've got 3 papers that I've contributed to, and then there's the one that we're currently working on with La Trobe Uni. I'm hoping, if workload allows, which I'm going to have to ditch a few things in order to do this, I'm hoping to do my PhD next year. I'll be looking at wellbeing and employment for autistic people. So similar to what I'm doing with La Trobe, but hoping I can fit that all in. I think I'd need the scholarship, but anyway, imagine I'm fairly, well, I don't know these things, I'm not on the panel, but I suspect I would be reasonably competitive in that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, hopefully we could collaborate if you do that. I've just started my PhD 2 weeks ago, and I'm
well
doing
done.
research on
What's the topic?
it's relating to digital wellbeing tools for adults with autism and ADHD.
I
and
like
touches on
that.
employment too. So yeah, maybe we can figure
let's
out some research projects together.
Absolutely, that sounds fantastic.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's have a quick break.
Hi there, Focus and Chillers. Are you ready to supercharge your knowledge in the realms of creativity, tech, and psychology? Come check out my fortnightly newsletter. In each edition, you'll get quick wins and actionable takeaways that you can put into practice right away. If this sounds like you, I'd love to have you as a reader. Subscribe for your fortnightly dose of insights. The link is in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show.
All right, we're back from our break. Yenn had some time with the cat, and I had a drink of water.
Yeah.
Now, I'd love to ask you about your mornings and your evenings. Do you have a morning ritual that you like to follow in the morning?
Usually the cat will sit on me, which is cat for please get up and feed me. So I'll do that. And then it's a breakfast, big breakfast person. I don't drink coffee other than one in the morning when I get up. I always watch a television program, especially when I'm working from home. My favourites are Star Trek, particularly anything with a Borg in. Look how silly this is. I have a Borg mouse cat. It says, you will be assimilated. I'm a huge Borg fan. I have a doormat that says, you are being assimilated. Resistance is futile. Have a nice day. I have a Borg duck. It's quite a niche fandom, the Borg. Star Trek is a wider interest base, but the Borg is much more niche. And I know they're not very nice and they go around assimilating people, but I reckon getting assimilated would not be such a bad thing. Like, you'd have loads of friends. You'd never be lonely. You'd have all the knowledge of like 10,000 species. Sign me up. That's my morning. I get up and watch something on TV. I also like medical shows, police shows, like actual police shows, not dramas, but reality police shows. I've been watching Orange is the New Black and really enjoying that. I watched Breaking Bad, which, about 10 years after everyone else did, and I actually really quite enjoyed that too. It was a bit gruesome at times. And so TV is my thing. In the evening, well, normally I have my dinner at about, 5:36 or something like that. And then I call my parents because they're lovely and they need me to call them because otherwise they worry that I'm dead. Yeah, my mum's autistic. She catastrophizes like I do. So if I don't call them, I have to text them and say, it's okay, hi, me, still alive. And then, sometimes I watch some TV in my bedroom. So I've got a TV on the wall in my bedroom, which is really lovely. So I'll do that. And then sometimes I do a bit of work as well. So I take my meds in the morning and at night because if I don't take my meds, my life gets very, very difficult and unpleasant.
How do you transition from watching the TV in the morning to getting into work? Does it sort of satisfy a need in the morning and then it's easy for you to move on to work after that?
Yeah. I need to sort of have that transition point into the day, especially because probably 70 or 80% of my work is done from home. So, otherwise I'd just be walking from the bedroom to the study and here you go. It's nice to make a sort of ritual about not getting up and going straight into work, especially because I work from home. So when you work in an office or wherever, you have to drive or get the tram or something. And that gives you a buffer between home and work. Having TV gives me a buffer between, I guess, home and home. Sometimes I wake up late, which is pretty funny. Yesterday I had a very important meeting at 10:30 in Civic, and I meant to get up at about 7 and got up at 8:30. So I had a very quick breakfast. I don't even think I got my coffee. I think I just had a glass of juice and rushed into the office. I was there on time. It was fine.
And are there ever days, because you were saying before that you could watch TV all day, but is it that on work days that's not a problem, that you're easily able to restrain yourself to just one show?
Yeah. I'm usually pretty disciplined, especially around work, because I'm very motivated with work.
Yeah, that helps because you enjoy all of the jobs. Because I sometimes find things that I like doing, it's no problem, but things that I feel a bit dull, I'm pretty good at procrastinating on them sometimes.
I think if I'm tired, I find it difficult to work. I'm not usually tired because I've got ADHD, which comes with a whole bunch of energy. I love ADHD. I was talking to someone yesterday whose partner is autistic and ADHD, and apparently they said, if they had a fix-it pill, they wouldn't take it for autism, but they would take it for ADHD, which I thought was really interesting because I wouldn't take it for either. I actually really like elements of my ADHD and the absurd amounts of energy. I couldn't do what I do without that. So,
Yeah, same here. I feel like the divergent thinking and the passion for lots of different projects definitely helps. In terms of the evening as well, you have your dinner, you might watch another show. Do you have a consistent bedtime or it varies day to
not
day?
really. It just varies, I think. Yeah.
Nice. And I guess it depends on what you have the next day, that if you don't have an important meeting the next day, then it doesn't matter what time you get up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really nice to be able to have a schedule like that that can accommodate your life.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, it's been really nice learning about the way you approach your work and hearing about your history. If people want to read your books or find your course or anything like that, is there a website or a good way for them to connect with you online?
I do have a website, but it's a bit out of date. And unfortunately, my web designer is even more busy than I am. So I can't really bring myself to tell her to update it. The books are on pretty much all booksellers online. I don't want to plug Amazon because it's slightly evil, but they are on Amazon if you can brave the evil. My Life, My Decisions course, I would just go on Google My Life, My Decisions or Autism in Adulthood and Yenn Purkis, and that should get you to it as well. And what else do I do? That's probably it. Oh, yeah.
The theatre?
Yeah,
Do you want
TED
people to
Talks.
come to your show?
Yeah. TED Talks. So they're on YouTube. And if you type my name into the search on YouTube, they'll come up. They're probably the first thing that comes up.
Right. And do you have any final words or asks for the audience?
No, and just thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Always love doing this kind of thing. And yeah, I hope you found it really helpful. If you are interested in my work, please do look me up. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. I think that's everything. Feel free to get in touch with questions or anything like that. Happy to answer them. And thank you for watching.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.